Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé the other way. Let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, don't use YouTube as a replacement for therapy. If you need a therapist, get one. You deserve it. Let's watch.
So I wanted to do the practice called companionship inventory. Something I did was a Mormon missionary, because missionaries are always in two. We just tell each other how we can support each other, tell each other kind of what we don't like about each.
Okay, actually like this. I don't know how it will go. It really depends on how you use this exercise, but it's a great one. You know, air your complaints, give each other appreciations, talk about your preferences for the relationship. It's people should do this more often, honestly. And let's see how it goes.
Как ты объяснишь ситуацию, когда ты звонил мне по телефону и спрашивал о том, чтобы я разрешила тебе встречаться, просто ходить на свидание?
I didn't feel ready to be in an exclusive relationship yet.
All right, so we're hearing an explanation from him. She is hurt and angry that at some point in the history of their relationship asked to date other women. The way she frames it, they were in a totally committed relationship, and it was as if he was asking for permission to cheat on her. That's the way that she frames it. But from his perspective, he's saying that, by the way, I'm kind of stuffed up. I don't know if it's a cold or allergies. I got tested for COVID. I'm good. So I think it's just a random minor cold, honestly. It's been a long time since I've had, just a random cold. Anyway, so he is saying that when I asked to date other women, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be in a committed relationship. Okay. So did he communicate that effectively? If no, then why wouldn't you? If he did, then why does she frame it in her mind as if her committed boyfriend was asking to cheat on her? Let's see what they say.
But I feel like I had told you about that.
Я не помню этого.
Okay, so we hear some key phrases. I feel like I told you about that. And she says, I don't remember that. So at the very least, if he did explain himself, he didn't do a good enough job. And there's a possibility he didn't explain it at all, that he just kind of in the middle of what she thought was an exclusive relationship headed towards marriage, he just says, hey, could I date other women? So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that they either avoid, because why didn't she ask? Why didn't she say, it sounds like she hasn't brought it up since then. So maybe the two of them avoid these kinds of things, which I find to be interesting. Interesting. It's hard for me to relate to personally, but I do see it a lot in clients. People avoid for a variety of reasons, and I can imagine them avoiding this because they don't feel confident that the conversation will go well. But they're finally talking about it, so good. So maybe he can say, oh, well, I'm sorry. Back then I was just unsure about you and me. And I was like, maybe I should date other people. And I didn't want to just start dating other people and have you be under the wrong impression. So that's why I started asking you before actually doing that.
We weren't sure when we were meeting. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to meet.
Я высказала свое мнение о том, что мне это не нравится.
I did go out with my friends who were girls, sometimes one-on-one, like a date.
Okay, so I don't know what's happening right now. So she's saying, did you actually go on some dates? And he says, well, I did go out one-on-one with some of these women who are friends of mine, and it was like a date. Okay, when you hang out with a friend, it's either a date or it's not. I mean, sometimes people can be confused about that, but usually it's clear, right? When I hang out with women friends of mine, I'm 100% positive that we all know it's not a date because I'm married, So what does that tell us? So I could see one. My guess is that what happened. So I don't know if I showed this, but he said, "Look, this was a time that we didn't know if we were going to see each other again. We didn't know if it was even possible to see each other again, and so I was like, I think this relationship isn't going to work. I don't even really know her that well. I think how many weeks? A couple weeks they've spent in person together, and." So I thought, well, maybe that's that. And I guess I should move on with the rest of my life. I was getting advice from other people that I was not being very healthy by just holding on to this lost cause. And I'm really sorry about this, and I wanted to be with you, but I just thought, it's just not going to work. You live on the other side of the planet, You're not Mormon. And so I thought maybe I should just start dating other people. And that's when I came to you and I said that. I regret it now, but that's why I said that. I didn't want to just start dating other people without telling you. And maybe I just should have broken up with you or something. I don't know. So maybe that. And then he proceeds to kind of date other women. He doesn't go very far, and somehow eventually he comes back to her and says, actually, let's make this work and maybe we can see each other in Turkey. There's nothing wrong with that story, right? But the way he tells it, he's kind of evading, which makes it seem like he's hiding something, right? And she detects that, I think.
Alina and I met in person for the first time 2 months after we first started talking online, and we just had this amazing connection. But we only spent 2 weeks together, and I wasn't ready to be exclusive. So for the next couple of months, while Alina and I were dating long distance, I continued going on dates with other girls.
Makes total sense. That's totally fine. Why are you being shady about it? Just tell her. And you should have been upfront back then. There's nothing wrong with dating someone and saying, by the way, I'm still dating other people. I just want to let you know. Some people, they don't like that. And that'll be a deal breaker for them, which is fine. But for a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, good. I'm glad you're dating other people because I'm dating other people. So just be honest, people. And that's okay. As long as you're honest and you're upfront, it's totally fine. But to not be honest and to be shady, and then in the moment when you're asked about it, you're like, well, how there are some women who are friends, we might have been one-on-one and it was, sort of like a date. That doesn't describe what was happening. What you're saying in the one-on-one interview is you're literally dating other women. Fine. Tell her in the moment and admit to it now. Don't be shady about it because that creates distrust. It makes it look like you can't be trusted.
I stopped going on dates. Dating those women helped me realize that it's definitely Alina that I want to be with. But I'm not ready to get married yet.
То есть ты, несмотря на мою болезненную реакцию, все-таки сделал так, как считаешь нужным?
So it's an interesting narrative. She's exhibited this in the past as well, but it's an interesting narrative that she developed. So I don't know, maybe I'm reading into it, but she's saying, wait, so even though it was incredibly painful to me, you just did it anyway? So, okay, yeah, I guess, but he didn't think he'd ever see you again. And he didn't know if he wanted to even be with you because you'd only seen each other for 2 weeks. So, he doesn't know if he wants to be with her. He doesn't know if he wants to marry her. And for her, which makes total rational sense, right? They've had 2 weeks together. And in the few days that they've seen each other in Turkey, things have been up and down. So Stephen would be, it would be unwise for him to just say, yep, totally fine. This is the person for me. It's going to be great. Because there's no way to know that. And for her, she just seems incredibly judgmental and critical about that. She's just like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. When she could be like, I'm glad you're being careful. I should be careful too. I don't know you. So let's take it slow. Instead, she takes this other path. But anyway, so she's taking this narrative of the situation. Maybe you can clear it up to her and say, look, I really liked you, but I didn't know you that well. And so, yeah, I dated other people because I just didn't know if things, but then once I dated other women and I was like, no, I really want to be with Alina. And that's when I, came back to you essentially and said, hey, let's try to develop this more into an exclusive thing. Now, maybe he wasn't clear about that. Anyway, let's see what they say.
After Steven and I spent 2 weeks in Europe, we talked literally every day. He talked about our future plans, our kids, marriage.
Right, that was what I was worried about, which would explain her judgmentalness and hurt and anger. That he was giving her the impression that they were going to get married, have kids, spend the rest of their lives together. Meanwhile, he's really not sure about that and stringing her along, or and people will do that. The internet will call these people narcissists, but the way I would say it is it's a minor, it could be a version of love bombing, actually, which is mostly of the people. Listen to my whole deep dive on love bombing. I've treated people who have love bombed. I've experienced love bombing. Most love bombing is done by people that are doing it unconsciously because they're desperate for attachment, as we all are, and they are either falling deeply in love with someone, which you could characterize as love bombing, and then later on they fall out of love because that's the nature of love. People don't always, but it can be the nature of love. The nature of love is that it can end. Or the person is so desperate for an attachment that they just pour all their soul into this relationship because it feels so good to finally have a secure attachment. Then you have the sadistic and or psychopathic individuals who don't care about other people's feelings, and they're literally manipulating people with love bombing. Anyway, so for some people, when they are in the beginning of a relationship, they have a lot of feelings, and they'll use all these words like marriage and kids and spend forever. But if you really just locked them down and said, are you sure about this? They'd be like, well, I don't know. I mean, it would be nice or this. Then why are you giving the impression as if it's a sure thing and you're positive about it? And they'll be like, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe, they don't ever stop and think, what am I saying to this person? And again, the internet will say they're narcissistic or they're manipulators or something. And maybe he is, but most people, it's just out of this fanciful talk. And maybe they kind of know the other person wants them to say this, and they avoid or even go into denial about thoughts and feelings that might contradict the love feeling and the fantasy play that you're playing about the future. And that's what I suspect for Steven, is that he wanted it to be true, but knew that it wasn't really that true, but didn't stop and think about it very often because he's always moving forward. It's a sign of immaturity. It's a sign of lack of experience. The more experienced, generally speaking, people are at dating, the more they avoid things like this, the more straightforward they are, the more they'll just be like, look, I've dated a lot. I'm just going to lay it out on the table. Date. Steven, they're both young too, so maybe it's just a product of that. Or maybe Steven is a bastard manipulator. Your guess is as good as mine.
So I thought that we were exclusive. Learning that he actually did go on dates through our relationship, it's a huge betrayal.
Yeah. So on one hand, yes. On the other hand, yes, he gave the impression, clearly he's not really refuting that, and he dated other people, so that would hurt. And if you just had in your head, like, when we talk about marriage, I'm guessing when they were talking about marriage and kids, she was like 110%, this is my life. And he was like, well, maybe. And then he starts to date other people and she's like, what? I thought we were basically married already, So on one hand, yes. But on the other hand, he did say, can I date other people? And if she had come to me and said, I don't understand what's happening, I would say, well, he's not sure if you're the one. And he's saying marriage and stuff, but he also said something that indicates that, either he changed his mind or it just isn't into it, So he did say something, it's not like he cheated. He said, I'm going to date other people. Is that all right? Or at least that's the way it seems. It's an incredibly how do I say, inadequate way of communicating that idea. You know, what he should say is, I know I've been giving you this impression that I want to be exclusive, and I guess I did, but I don't want to be exclusive anymore. I'm really sorry. How do you feel about that? Does that mean our relationship is over? I'm going to start dating other people. I don't know if you and I are made for each other. I don't know if you and I are ever going to see each other again. And but I'd like to maybe continue having what we have because maybe things will work out, but I don't want to string you along. Like, it sounds like he never said anything like that, but he did say something, which, you know, is more than other people on the show would do.
Откуда мне знать, если сейчас ты готов к серьезным отношениям? Вдруг ты скрываешь что-то?
This is the thing that makes me doubt our relationship because I don't trust him to be honest with me.
Yeah, again, he was honest in part because he did say, I'm going to date other people. So he did tell her it was hurtful and perhaps unwise given, well, is it unwise? I mean, they're young, they barely know each other. Anyway, but he is being shady right now, which when you take the whole thing as a whole, just gives off this general vibe of deception, which of course she's going to be hurt by and concerned about, and thus doesn't trust him, which makes total sense.
And I feel he has more secrets that he hides from me. And I'm afraid that my friend Masha will confirm my fears.
Yeah, I mean, that's the consequence of being shady, is that people will say, can I trust anything you say? Can I even trust that you say you love me? I don't know if I can trust anything. And, you know, I often will rant about this. And just another detail, when someone says that they love you, or someone says that they want to spend the rest of their life with you, or someone says they're not cheating on you, or someone says that they don't think about other people or something, you can't know that, right? There's no way to be able to know that they're telling you the truth, because you would have to follow them around 24/7 and get into their head, which of course you can't do. So we have to trust that the person who's telling us that is telling the truth. And how can we know? We can't. There's no way to know other than, is this person generally trustworthy? Does this person lie to me sometimes? Or has this person never lied to me? Like, I'm thinking about my wife. I don't think she's ever lied to me in my life. I don't see her lie to other people. So when she says things to me, the only thing that interferes with my ability to believe it are my own insecurities and has nothing to do with her. So I believe her because of her track record. If she had lied X amount of times, that wouldn't be true. And so there's no way for us to know. And there's no way for other people to know what's in our minds. We tell people, this is what is in my heart. This is what is in my mind. Please believe me. But if you have a track record, even with one lie, one deception, it throws everything off. Because, as I've said before, people would be stupid if they believed someone who has lied in the past to them. If someone lies to you and then you just believe everything they say after that, that's stupid. You're living your life without considering the evidence, right? It's like living in Seattle and acting like it never rains, walking out the door without a coat on in the middle of the winter, assuming it's not going to rain, right? Well, the reason why that would be stupid is because it rains in Seattle in the past, and so thus we will trust it will rain in Seattle in the future. If someone lies to you in the past, then you can trust that they will lie to you in the future. They might even be lying to you right now. So I just want to reiterate. Now, I want to also reiterate, people do not lie typically because of narcissistic or psychopathic or sociopathic reasons, as the internet will say. The vast majority of lying happens because people are ashamed and they don't want to lose their partner. They believe that by withholding the information or lying, then it optimizes their attachments. So, but it's the opposite, right? Because the lies actually push people away. People develop these lying defenses because of relational traumas that they went through. The reason why my wife doesn't lie is because she didn't go through those relational traumas. She didn't need to develop a lying defense to save herself in the past. People can develop lying defenses because of abuse, because they're trying not to be abused, or they see lying, or they believe that there's something wrong with it. There's a lot of different paths actually to lying. Anyway, so yeah, it makes sense that Alina wouldn't trust him.
I feel like you can trust me now because I've given up everything to be here.
Yeah, and this is what people... Now, I don't know if he's lied. I haven't heard a direct lie that he has said. Well, other than the fact that he just kind of lied when she asked, have you dated, did you go on dates? He's like, well, there was a friend that I went on a one-on-one thing with, kind of, and it was sort of like a date. That's not what you said to the producer in the one-on-one interview. You said you went on dates. So that's a lie, but she doesn't know that yet. She'll find out when she watches this show, I guess. But anyway, so... But yeah, people who will betray people's trust will often say that. They will say, well, I don't understand why you don't trust me, because I've been honest with you now, so trust me. No, it doesn't work like that. It's like, the Seattle weather going, well, I'm not raining today. I'm not raining right now, so trust I will never rain again. It's like, no. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you haven't become a patron of the podcast yet, you can do so now by going to patreon.com. There should be a link below. When you become a patron of the podcast, that shows us that you like what we're doing, that you support what we're doing, and it actually does give us the ability to continue doing this sort of thing. So if you could do that, that'd be great. If not, it's totally cool. If you already are a patron, if you could either become an upper tier patron or an annual patron, that also helps us out. And you get a discount if you're an annual patron, by the way. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.